The Flashing Girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
Miss Fine.
Scooty Wop, welcome back to Oh, Mr. Sheffield. This is episode 19. We're getting to the end of season 1 here as we talk about Fran Drescher's hit sitcom, The Nanny, in laborious detail. This is episode 19 of the show, The Gym Teacher, that we're going to be breaking down for you. I am Shawn DiPasquale here with
Toria Sheffield.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
What?
Yeah, this one was directed by Gail Mancuso, who's directed a couple in a row here, and it was written by Alan Eisenstock and Larry Mintz. Alan, from the best of my research, only did the one episode that he was credited as a writer. I'm sure he was in the writer's room for a season, but only wrote one. And then wrote a bunch of like really impressive stuff. And like prior to that. And then Larry, good old Larry here, also has like a pretty seasoned career prior to this show. And then, you know, it kind of dies down after that. But Mork and Mindy, What's Happening, Family Matters, Step by Step, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I mean, you know, these guys are TV vets, as it were. So, and I would say overall, this is a solid episode. What did you think of it?
Yeah, this is a solid episode. It's the episode where Fran helps Maggie try to pass her gymnastics midterms. She's taking gymnastics in gym class. I actually felt like this was an episode where it's very entertaining, but not a lot happens. Like we could explain the plot in like half a sentence. And
yeah, I mean, I agree. It was enjoyable though, is the thing. Like I really enjoyed this episode. It was funny. It had a lot of Yiddish in it, which we'll get to later. It had like, you know, I thought like a pretty classic setup as far as like, you know, sitcom plots go. And it had a couple of really solid guest stars too.
Yeah. And so basically what happens is, Fran discovers that Maggie has been feigning an illness to get out of gym class. And Maggie eventually reveals to her that it's because she's doing gymnastics this semester. And there's this horrible teacher. She's like awful. And Maggie doesn't want anything to do with it. And Fran was like, oh, I get it. I also had a horrible gym teacher when I was in high school.
At the beginning, she's faking her period. And she says she's been faking it 4 times in that month. She's faked having her period. Which I just thought was like a really funny, and she like sells it. She's like, yeah, no, I like, this is my 4th time. And then Fran just goes like, yeah, no, you don't have, that doesn't happen. And she's like, oh.
Yes. And so essentially though, very shortly after this, Fran says, you know what, fine, I will agree. I will help you, you know, with this ruse. I will help you get out of this. I'll write you a note. We just need to figure out like what we're going to say you have. And there was this line that actually this line reminded me of something we went over a few episodes ago where we quoted the culture critic who we're going to actually have on in a few episodes.
Yes.
Who mentioned that one thing that was really revolutionary about The Nanny at the time was how a character would be gay and they would just breeze past it. That wasn't the main, they didn't dwell on it. It wasn't a big deal. And even though some of those jokes might seem dated now, that was actually really new and refreshing then. And there's this line where Fran's like, well, we just need to craft you the right excuse. Maybe hammer toe. And Maggie's like, what's that? And Fran goes, it's a cruel and crippling condition caused by shoving your feet into high heels that are too small. And if you don't think that's painful, just ask my Uncle Harvey. And I'm not sure, that might be the same Uncle Harvey who she said sang beautifully like Judy Garland a few episodes
Yes,
before.
I think so.
Same guy.
Yeah.
So she, she clearly has a gay uncle who she's very fond of.
To the again, as you brought up, we're going to have
Matt Baum.
Matt Baum. We talked a couple weeks ago. We talked about his video and why Fran's fine with the gays, I think is what the video is called. And we reached out to him, and he's like, completely down to come talk about The Nanny. So he's gonna close out season 1 with us as we talk about the season 1 finale, and then also sort of, Fran's larger LGBTQ plus cultural impact. So that's going to be super exciting.
It's coming up. And that's the main plot of this episode. Fran is going to help Maggie with this gym class and terrible gym teacher situation. Meanwhile, the B plot is that, as usual, Mr. Sheffield and Cece are trying to cast their latest show. It seems to be happening all the time. And Cece really wants them to cast this big time actor named Alan Beck. And Mr. Sheffield is like, no, I hate Alan Beck. I actually was his assistant years ago when I was brand new to the industry back in London. And he said he once tried to light me on fire when I forgot to put lemon in his tea. And Cece just goes, there are two sides to every story. Like, as if there's possibly another side to that. But however, she's like, if you get Alan Beck's name on a marquee, you can guarantee pre-sales for 6 months, which ultimately convinces Mr. Sheffield. So that's going on while all this other stuff is happening. And then we kind of bounce back to the Maggie Fran thing, and the school calls home and they say, Maggie's been out, and actually they say, like, can you, it sounds like she has a heart murmur now. And I thought this is really funny because Mr. Sheffield gets the call from the school, right? That Maggie has been claiming she has a heart murmur to get out of a specific class. He doesn't know that Fran helped her craft this excuse. So he calls Fran into his office and is like, he actually says, do you know anything about Maggie having a heart murmur? Which is like, but like, he doesn't say it in a way where it's like, I know what's going on here. It was a genuine question. At which point I thought he truly is a very absentee father. And then he just says, Miss Fine, can you take care of it? Like, and maybe we can just assume that he assumes it was made up, but he doesn't want to have to deal with all of that. But I have a note here where I wrote, can you even imagine your parents not dealing with this directly when you were a kid?
No.
Like the school calls home and is basically like, your kid has been lying to get out of this class, and you don't get any confrontation from them.
So Fran takes Maggie to gym class, right?
Because she's basically like, I'll talk to your teacher. We'll sort this out.
And they walk in and she's like, oh my God, I haven't been to gym class in so long, And she goes, oh, look at the rings. And then she goes like, ugh, I got no use for rings unless someone's putting one on my finger. And then she sees, what is it called? Like a horse?
It's like I forget what it's called, but I'm also thinking the word horse. Wait, the vault?
Horse.
Isn't it the vault? Hold on.
A Charlie horse?
No, wait, gymnastics, not Charlie horse. It's a horse, a pommel horse?
Yes. It's
pommel
the thing,
horse.
Yes. It's the thing that like it looks like a horse. I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway. It looks like this. It looks like a big balance beam that's like thicker than a balance beam. Yeah.
And like, it's the thing that like, they like will go up on their arms and like swing their legs around and do all the cool stuff. Anyway, Fran like climbs up on it. And then she goes, and this thing I used to, and then she goes, nah, never mind.
It was a sex joke. It was like she and boys used to
like lay over it and have sex on it. Is that what the joke was?
Yes, yeah.
Or was it like she like used to ride it and like get off on it?
Oh, no. It was I don't think it was a self-pleasure joke. I think it was she used to have sex on it.
She's like, oh, I used to lay over this thing. Oh, I get it. All right.
Yeah.
Shame
on her.
Unless
it was significantly more risque than I thought it was as a joke, but I don't think so. I don't think so. But I really enjoyed this.
We'll have to ask Fran Drescher.
Well, no, I really enjoyed this scene because while they're kind of like, sauntering around this gym, Fran says something like, oh, Maggie, ultimately it's not worth all this hoopla for just, 40 minutes. You should just, come to this class. And Maggie goes, no, gym class is 45 minutes. And that leads to this really funny little sequence where Fran is like, oh, Maggie, no, like you have so much to learn. First, you like before gym class, you got to get dressed. Take your time. You're not a fireman. Then you volunteer to get the equipment. That's at least 12 minutes. That leaves about 20 minutes for you to look for your contact. Like, and she just goes through like all the little tricks and tips of making gym class be as short as humanly possible. And like, I remember, like this really took me back to like that time of life when like you would do that for stuff. You'd be like, oh, I'm supposed to go do such and such with the equipment. I'm definitely going to make that take 15 minutes longer than
or you just like, I remember my buddy Dave and I, when we were in middle school and we had this coach who he used to call us Ren and Stimpy. He'd be like, all right, Ren and Stimpy, and then like once it became like in fashion, then he shifted eventually to Beavis and Butthead like a year later. He's like, all right, Beavis and Butthead. And we would, everyone would have to do like laps or whatever around the thing. And like, we would just like walk. We would just straight up walk it, and like pushing to the limit what the definition of doing laps was, and he'd be like, come on, pick up the hustle, Beavis and Butthead. And we'd be like, okay. And then like, we would just, we would just walk and like talk about wrestling and like cartoons that we watched, like do like Simpsons quotes at each other. So BSing my way through gym was very relatable, I have to say.
I expected that from you, and we will get into that. We'll get into that at the end, but when we do the Fran the CC, but
then we meet the gym teacher, which I was very excited about this actor. Do you know, did this actor?
Oh yes. Okay. So it's very familiar. So that we meet the gym teacher, and it turns out that it was the very same gym teacher that Fran had in high school, like who she had alluded to have, she said, I had this horrible gym teacher. No one could have been as bad as my gym teacher. And she turns around and it's Rita Moreno, who is
Kiss of the Spider Woman, Rita Moreno, West Side Story, Rita Moreno, Sister Peter Marie, Riamundo on Oz.
She is a Broadway legend and a musical legend.
The voice of Carmen Sandiego in the 90s animated Where on the Earth is Carmen Sandiego television series on kids Saturday mornings.
Yeah, no, she is truly like in the theater community and just in the musical community, like for actual,
she's a legend.
Like musicals that were movies like West Side Story. She's actually in Singing in the Rain and The King and I as well.
Do you know she's in the Steven Spielberg remake of West Side Story too? She's got a little small role, which looks fantastic, by the way.
Okay,
do a whole podcast on West Side Story.
Here's the weird thing about this though. Did you notice that she appears and there is no audience indication that she is a guest star? Because what often happens in sitcoms is when a famous person appears in a role, like there is this sort of there's a signal to
Did they not do that?
No, I even went back to rewatch it because there is another guest star who is arguably less famous, I will say, who appears later in the show. Yes. And when he appears on screen, it's like huge applause. Woo! And so I was like, wait a second. Did they not do that for Rita? I went back and they did not. And I thought that was so weird because she's not only so famous in the world of musical theater, but probably people who love this show would have definitely recognized her.
This show, that's so interesting. Look, this show has a ton of musical theater character actors and New York actors that pop up on it. So, on the one hand, I'm really surprised that Rita Moreno was just like shuffled in. They're like, this broad.
Well, especially because they do give her this really great homage in the episode's button. So it's clear that they are expecting people to know exactly who she is. It was it was a strange choice. I was odd. It made me pop.
And honestly, if you don't get that reaction live, why not add in a little, pop? It's not, they're adding in laughter, and there's clearly a laugh track also at play in some of these.
But basically, it's kind of funny because Fran sees her and she's like, Miss Wickovic, like you changed your name, because this is why Fran hadn't realized that Maggie had the same teacher because it's a different last name, and the woman goes, well, I got married. And Fran goes, to a man? Which is a classic gym teacher joke.
Classic lesbian gym teacher joke. Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie. I had a couple lesbian gym teachers. It's a trope that holds up.
I look, for what it's worth, my first exposure to just like a gay person was my gym teacher in elementary school, and she was a wonderful lady.
Well, absolutely.
But like that just exposure to her led to a conversation, with my parents and who obviously were very progressive parents. They were like, no, you could never talk to her again. We're pulling you out of that school.
Yes.
No, they were very progressive parents and lovely human beings.
So here's the thing. The high school that I went to, because it technically was a Episcopal school, even though there was definitely kids who weren't Episcopal who went there, a guidance counselor got pregnant out of wedlock, and she was basically asked not to come back.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
not that long ago.
Crazy.
All
right, we got way off track.
Oh, sorry. But so yeah.
Go ahead. Take us home.
Okay, so basically, it's this huge reveal. This is the woman who tormented Fran in her youth, and this woman basically says, like, if Maggie does not pass the midterm next week, the gymnastics midterm, she's going to fail the class. And so Fran is like, fine, like, I'm going to make sure she passes. I am going to train her. And the gym teacher just laughs and laughs. She actually looks at Maggie and says, I'm going to make you suffer so bad, you'll beg me to kill you. And then she walks off. And Fran just goes, marriage has mellowed her. And sort of the kind of like parallel plot line that's happening during this is we go back to sort of Mr. Sheffield and this actor Alan Beck, and sort of the parallel is that both Fran and Mr. Sheffield are dealing with people from their past who terrorize them, right? And the actor who plays Alan Beck is actor Joseph Bologna, who, by the way,
Joey Bologna.
Well, no, I was going to say he was married to Renee Taylor, aka Fran's mother, Sylvia.
Yeah.
And they were married from 1965 until his death in 2017. Wow. And the thing is, the audience goes crazy when they see him, even though I didn't recognize him, but I did Google him, and probably his biggest movie was Peter O'Toole's My Favorite Year.
Yes. I was in the musical My Favorite Year. So I watched that movie a bunch, and I instantly, as soon as you walked in, I recognized his voice as King Kaiser in My Favorite Year.
So you know what? He was also in the movie Blame It on Rio, which is a true abomination of
yeah, that's a terrible movie.
It's so disgusting. For those who don't know, it's Michael Caine and his best friend, played by this guy, go on a vacation with their two teenage daughters. And then Michael Caine ends up having a sexual affair with his best friend's 16-year-old daughter. And it's just supposed to be a hilarious summer romp. It's not a drama. It's not he's not morally implicated in any way. It is just a horribly misguided comedy from the 70s.
No, it's just an excuse. It's Michelle Johnson and Demi Moore. And it's just an excuse to get them naked. They're topless multiple times in the movie. Like, it's definitely played. They are not played like two 16-year-old girls. They are played like, or they're 16-year-old girls who are just like hilariously topless around their dad.
Oh my God. And the thing is, Michael Caine, like this beautiful teenage girl is like coveting him the whole movie. Yeah. And he's really not an attractive man. But anyway.
Sorry, Michael Caine.
I love Michael Caine, but I hate that movie so much. Anyway.
Michael Caine, what do you mean I'm not attractive?
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
How dare you, Toria?
is Michael Caine is like famous for, even though he's a great actor, sometimes just being in horrible movies. And one time a critic said, "Did you actually like see that film you were in?" He went, "No, but I saw the house it bought me."
I think that was for Jaws the Revenge, actually.
Oh yeah, it was like touche, Michael Caine. Good for you. But so anyway, we're back with Mr. Sheffield and this Alan Beck, who is, continuing to totally abuse him. And he's like this egomaniac. When he first walks in the room, he looks at Mr. Sheffield and he's like, "You look familiar." And Mr. Sheffield's like, yes, I once worked as your assistant back in London.
Right.
And the guy goes, oh, give me a coffee. And then Mr. Sheffield's like, oh, I'm actually the producer now. And he just looks at him without missing a beat and goes, with cream. Basically, he's such an egomaniac that we find out he's insisting that he plays a character who's in a wheelchair, not in a wheelchair. And then Mr. Sheffield goes, but it's FDR. So we find it was a great reveal of who the character is, where basically Alan Beck is insisting he plays a version of FDR who's not in a wheelchair because he's like refusing to be portrayed that way. And so that
he goes, what does he say? He goes, that's FDR. He had polio. And I think
find a cure.
Yeah. He goes, find a cure, figure it out.
Yes. And so Fran and Mr. Sheffield that evening are commiserating in the kitchen, and they both say, we've got to stand up to these people from our past. And they both sort of share how it's going to be, how they don't know if they can. But they do have this little beat where they bond over this sort of shared experience they're going through. And the next scene is literally, it is Maggie's midterm. So like a week has gone by, and we did have a very brief little training montage moment with Fran and Maggie where they both fall to the floor because they're both very uncoordinated. But this particular moment at the midterm, it's this huge moment of physical comedy for the actress who plays Maggie, who is Nicole Mary Tom. And it's literally just this montage of her like stumbling and fumbling to the Rocky music.
Classic.
And she's doing a horrible job. Despite all the training that she and Fran have done that week, she's just made no progress, but she's giving it her all. And, good job to this actress. She is, there was no vanity to this performance.
It's a good physical comedy. Again, we've got another episode that, Gail Mancuso directed, where there's like really solid physical comedy work, and I think that it holds up. It's funny, it's a funny little cute montage, and they make it very clear she's not gonna get it.
Yeah, she's not good. And at the end of it, Fran basically turns to this horrible gym teacher and is basically like, could you pass her? She gave it her all, and this teacher goes, nope, F. This like woman who truly gets joy from failing children is going to fail Maggie. And she's about to blow her gym whistle, which she has been doing all episodes sort of obnoxiously in people's faces, when she inhales, I guess, too strongly and starts choking on the whistle. And Fran realizes she's choking. And there's this other great moment of physical comedy when Fran Drescher is giving Rita Moreno the Heimlich. And, the whistle pops out of her mouth. And basically this causes this horrible gym teacher to pass Maggie begrudgingly out of gratitude. She has to sort of, and this actually, I'm just going to even quickly jump ahead. This led to my favorite line of this whole episode, which is, Fran looks at this gym teacher and goes, I may not have passed gym, but lucky for you, I passed the Heimlich poster every Sunday at the Foon Lung's Chinese restaurant, which is so good. I didn't pass gym class, but I passed the Heimlich poster.
That's so good.
It was so good. And so that wraps up that subplot. And then we go back to, it's not even the B plot. It's sort of their like almost equally significant A plots where Mr. Sheffield's in his office and Alan Beck is listing off these absurd demands, and he's smoking a cigar. And Mr. Sheffield then, I guess after his conversation with Fran about sort of facing the demons from your past, he goes, I've got some offers of my own. At which point he pulls out an even bigger cigar and lights it with an even bigger lighter. Basically like, it's a dick swinging contest basically at this point. And he's like, from now on, I'll give the orders around here. And Alan Beck's like, and he goes, you're fired. And Alan Beck accuses him of bluffing, at which point he walks out of Mr. Sheffield's office into the living room of the home. And the room is full of all of these actors who look like they are auditioning for his role as FDR. And Fran literally goes, Mr. Sheffield, Anthony Hopkins just called and asked if he should bring his own wheelchair. And which is so funny. Like, can you imagine Anthony Hopkins having his own wheelchair ready for roles?
For any audition? Yeah. He's like, I can bring it.
Yes, Alan Beck, as a typical fearful actor, it turns out at his core, totally caves. And that is the episode.
That whole setup was very sitcom-y. That ending felt like would anyone ever do that? Like, I literally wrote, would this ever happen? Because there's a beat after he leaves. He's like, okay, I'll be good or whatever, and he leaves, and then everyone cheers, and Mr. Sheffield's like, good job, Fran, like it worked, and she's like, thanks everybody, and everyone's like, no problem, Fran, and it's like, I don't know. Would that have ever happened? She called all those actors and got them to pretend to do that. Like,
I mean, hey, honestly, with the desperation in the New York acting community, maybe
the audacity, honestly, to ask me to come do this to get another person to keep their job who's an asshole. I'd be like, just replace him with me.
Yeah, but it's in terms of in the context of the episode, it's this very satisfying moment where Mr. Sheffield has conquered this thing from his past, and he has gained the upper hand. And then the whole episode ends with this button.
Great line. This I really like the end of this. The line at the end.
Yeah, so Fran is with her gym teacher, again played by Rita Moreno, and they're looking through Fran's old high school yearbook. And, at one point, Fran's like, oh, there I am with, such and such boy. And Rita goes, that kind of boy, he'll kill your brother. And Fran goes, oh, no, he was nice. And then she goes, forget that boy and find another, one of your own kind, stick to your own kind. And it was just, they're purely for like, we are so excited that we have Rita here. And he's completely just like geeking out. And that's all it was. And it was just for people who were going to geek out about, the Broadway of it all.
Yeah.
And it was,
hey, they got me. I popped.
Yep. And so it was just, it was totally unnecessary, but totally like, we're delighting in this right now.
Which brings us to
segments.
And now segments.
So segments.
Yeah, no, I think we should move on to segments.
We can move on to our segments.
And now, segments.
Segments. With Shawn and Toria.
Favorite lines.
Favorite lines. Oh, we really didn't talk about Niles at all in this episode, but my favorite moment was early in the episode. Niles is washing the windows in Mr. Sheffield's office, and it's making this kind of annoying squeaking sound. And Mr. Sheffield just goes, oh, come on, Niles, I'm trying to work. And Niles goes, as opposed to what I'm doing, which is a hobby. It's just like, it's so dry. It's so vicious. It's also makes me laugh. Their dynamic. He's so insolent to Mr. Sheffield. Yeah. But I also wrote, it's weird that your employee knew you when that your employer knew you when he was a baby. It's like, so it's like, of course this is like, this dynamic is going to persist. And then I wrote, the royal family is so weird. Like the idea that you are taking care of somebody who like far outranks you, a small child.
It's very strange, isn't it?
So weird. Yeah. And I already talked about that Heimlich poster was my other all-time favorite. One of my favorite lines maybe of the whole series so far.
I really liked the Eleanor Rigby line. That's if I'm going to go for favorite lines, I really liked, she says some quote and then she needs to be quoting Eleanor Roosevelt. Yeah. But she says, yes, that's what Eleanor Rigby said.
No, she goes, oh, like Eleanor Roosevelt. And she goes, and then she quotes the song. And then he goes, that was Eleanor Rigby. And she's like, oh.
I liked it. I liked the Beatles. Listen, I'm a sucker for a Beatles reference.
So Nanny trivia, this isn't really apropos of anything, except that I was reading more articles about, the nanny as sort of this like crucial gay text. There was actually a article that had that headline, and there was a writer. Oh no, I didn't. Oh yeah, I do. This writer named Brett White. I thought I had forgotten to grab his name. Who wrote an article called "The Nanny is a Crucial Gay Text That Must Be Preserved and Celebrated," and he actually really broke down why Fran Fine specifically speaks to so many gay men. And I thought it was really interesting and such a wonderful endorsement of Fran. And just an interesting perspective. So he writes in a Decider article from April 7th, 2021. He says, the biggest reason is Fran find her. Oh, sorry. This specifically was why the nanny speaks to gay men so strongly. And he says, the biggest reason is Fran Fine herself. With her distinct voice, party girl fashion, and unflappable confidence, she's the ideal outsider. She's a Jewish woman from Queens dropped into a wasp's nest in upper crust Manhattan. Yet it never phases her. She never tones down her wardrobe. She never loses her accent. She never misses a sale or skips a tradition. That's the vibe that every gay man dreams of. To be able to go where you want to go without having to compromise your authentic self. How many of us have had to watch what we wear, censor what we say, and hide who we love based on which job we have or which state we may be stopping in for gas? Fran Fine is the ultimate uncompromising gay ideal. And without realizing it, I related to her in middle school because everyone had figured out that I was gay long before I did, and they held it against me. It's like, what a
Wow.
beautiful sentiment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it gives us, we love this character, and there's a lot of things we love about her. But again, like, this is another reason to love her from a perspective that neither you or I might ever have thought about.
100%. But like, neither one of us decided to do this podcast because we were like, and she's a gay icon. That's absolutely something that I've learned over just the course of doing this. What was our Yiddish this episode?
Yiddish. Maker.
Macher.
I said it. Macher.
Macher. You're a
And
big Macher producer, she said.
yes, Fran
Macher.
says you're a big Macher producer now to Mr. Sheffield. And a Macher is an influential or powerful person, someone who makes things happen.
Yeah.
And it's actually in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as an English word now. It has been fully adopted into English.
Macher, really?
Macher. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, it's like you're a maker, like a mover and a shaker.
And a macher. And we also heard the phrase kvetch, which just means to whine or complain.
Yes, that's what often I can be found doing.
Me too.
Kvetching.
One of my
to kvetch.
favorite pastimes.
Me too. Me too. To the point where Elizabeth once was like, "Oh, you love kvetching." Like she said it so innocently, and it was just like, "Yeah, that's what you love." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I genuinely, you know me well."
I mean, I think
I guess we can say, I guess technically by the time this episode comes out, I can say my fiance.
My fiance.
My fiance.
My fiance. Are you going to, oh no, are you going to say it all the time now?
My fiance. I'm going to say it just like that every time.
I was taking a dump when my fiance knocked on the boudoir. Okay.
No, that will be the first and last time I ever say fiance, unless she's around, because I'm sure if I call her my girlfriend after we're engaged.
No, but I guess you could say partner, but then it's like, what is that even? So, okay.
No, you're my partner.
You're right.
You know what I mean? It gets super weird when you also have a partner who's female, and you're like, "Oh, my partner Toria," and they're like, "Oh, how long have you been together?" And you're like, "We've been doing this show for a long time."
Monica's mother's friends, Monica, my roommate, and like a writing partner that I have, they 100% for a long time thought that I was Monica's girlfriend because her mother kept saying, "Oh, Monica's partner and her, they just relocated to LA."
Yep. All right. So who's the Fran and who's the Chi-Chi?
So my instinct was spot on based on what you said about trying to get out of gym class. I said, I feel like you're the Fran. I didn't mind gym. I liked gym. And I wrote, I wasn't like a gym star, but I also wasn't one of those kids trying to get out of it. And I felt like you probably were.
I just didn't understand why you were made to get sweaty and disgusting in the middle of your school day. It just didn't make, it was like, to what end? What am I proving? I'm a kid. I go run around and I play. The whole point of wanting to get out of school was that so I could go run and play and ride my bike and do adventures. And like, I don't like work should have a mandatory gym time so that all of us old fat asses can be forced to do something.
Well, I was going to say, are you the type of person though who like, if there's like a pickup game of soccer, will you be into it?
What?
Like if I'm trying to gauge just how not of a sports
zero,
guy you are. Okay,
0% sports guy. If someone to the point where like my dad used to be like, do you want to go out front and throw a baseball? And I would go, Mom, no.
Okay. So I think, that's the big difference between us. We would go and kick a soccer ball around in the backyard. And to
what end?
Just fun, just to see how hard you could kick it, just because it was fun. And here's the thing: I'm not a huge sports person. Like I have people in my family who are really into sports. I just enjoy. I can enjoy physical activity, and to this day, in my mid-30s, I cannot resist a foot race. If you challenge me to a running race, I will take it. I can get competitive like that.
So I did not like gym class. You did. We now know the origin story of both, why we ended up where we ended up.
Yeah.
And and I think, I think that's a good button point for this episode, right? Yeah. I mean, for the gym teacher. Look, if you think that maybe I should get more into sports, or you think Toria should be a little less butch, drop us a line. Let us know. You can find us all over the place on every podcasting thing that you do. You can also go to anchor.fm/thenannypod, and you can leave us a message, or you can subscribe. A big shout out, big ups to our subscribers, our people listening, people that have been reaching out to us. It's super, super, super cool that people are engaged and liking what we're doing and having fun rewatching The Nanny, because really I'm having a great time just rewatching The Nanny and having someone to talk to every week. So if this is a similar type of outlet for you, then I totally get why you're listening along with us as we go on this short journey.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. Bye.
The Flushing girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
Miss Fine.